Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad to hear this morning. Got a special guest here in the studio. All kind of good information we're going to share with you this morning. But first, let's get our weather done. Brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. It's a little bit warmer today. Low tonight's going to be 42 and high today 58. It's a little bit warmer. Got some rain coming. It looks like Friday. So be aware of that as you're planning the activities. Hopefully it'll get out in and out by Friday, so a lot of us will have that Saturday in the outdoors. The water temperature, check it out now. It's back down to 63. We're a lot more comfortable with the water temperature down this low in January, not up there like it was last week. So it's refreshing to see that. Our river readings, both rivers are high. The Apalachicola Bluntstown this morning is right at 17 foot. And that's high, folks. And the Choctaw Caryville is right at 11. Both of them have a little bit of a drop today, a little bit of a drop, but we're going to have to wait and see what the rain does coming in a couple of days. We know it's going to affect the Choctawhatchee pretty good. The tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. We got a low tide this morning. Our winter low tide is at 525. It's coming in all day till about 7:45 tonight, but now we got a north-northeast wind. But it's not going to be a prevalent wind. It's going to be like 5 to 8 miles an hour, so that's not too bad. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with our guest. All right, welcome back, and look who's here, Steve Shea.
Good to see you, Winston.
Great to have you, Steve. Let's see, Shea, Wildlife, and
Environmental Services.
And Environmental Services, but you really focus on the wildlife a lot.
Yeah, I mean, almost 100% of my contracts are all wildlife management.
Are they really?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about later. You got some gator stuff coming on, some fishing stuff coming on, but we're going to talk about that later. Right now, well, what's been going on?
Well, the rut is started, and it's amazing the number and size of bucks that's being killed right now. Is we had predicted this earlier in the year that this was going to be a good year because of low harvest last year, and it's coming to realization right now. So it's time to be in the woods.
It is time to be in the woods, and we got some great pictures to show you today. We've been showing a lot of different folks throughout the Panhandle have been very successful. And it just goes to show you what 1 year can do on the size of these bucks. Oh,
unbelievable. I mean, so all those deer, last year the harvest was down about 50% in the area that was greatly impacted by the hurricane. So all those bucks are a year older. The habitat in many ways improved because there's so much undergrowth that has come up from the trees being down. And so a lot of groceries, a year older, so we got some big bucks out there right now.
All right. Now, also you got an idea last time. We talked about this share the harvest, and we're going to show it up again. Tell us about this. This is a great idea.
Yeah, a lot of states in the Southeast have had a Hunters for the Hungry program for many years. Florida has never had one, and I've been working with another fellow to start it here in Florida. And so it's a great program where hunters can bring their game in to be harvested, and when they pay for it to be processed, they donate a couple packs, and the Deer Shack here in Panama City is participating here locally. One of the cool things are, and if you have another slide,
all right, check this out.
C&G Sporting Goods has donated a really nice over and under shotgun rifle, and so if you donate, for every 2 packs of meat you donate, you get a chance to win this gun.
So you get a ticket.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we're hoping the program is 2 different Christian ministries here in Panama City that are accepting the meat that we donate. Catholic Charities and the First Methodist Church.
Awesome.
And so we've already brought them a bunch of meat, and we're hoping that we have generosity of our hunters to donate meat. So it all goes to local people that are less fortunate than us that need the food. So.
And what I like about this is your first year doing it, and this is sort of like a baby step getting started.
Yes.
But next year, the word's going to be spread around. It's going to be even more next year. But this season is started off real good.
Yep. I'm hoping that next year that we'll have more of the processors in town and other cities.
We will. I promise you. We will.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Talking about, I always talk about, I end the show every day, do something good today for your fellow man. There's a group of people doing that, and a group of hunters have the chance to. So I'm very proud of y'all for doing this. Good job. All right, let's show a picture of you. We showed all kinds of pictures last time. We're going to show this picture of you.
Yeah, this is a pretty nice buck that I killed in Missouri. Like we have that lease up there. I've hunted for 15 years, and this was about 160 class buck that I killed with my crossbow.
When is the season up there? And rut and all up in Missouri.
First 2 weeks of November is peak rut there. You know, it's interesting. We're a little later in the show. We're going to show the rut and how it occurs in Florida. But Florida is so much atypical than the rest of the United States. Most of North America, the rut is the first half of November.
Yeah.
It's not till you get to the extreme southern subtropical climates in the United States and Central and South America that you get that real diverse rut like we have here in Florida.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. Who's this fella here?
This is my dad, Les Shea. He's 84 years old and still hunts 2 or 3 times a week.
Awesome.
This is a nice little 7-point. It's 3.5-year-old 7-point that he killed a couple weeks ago. But you know, he's already harvested 3 bucks this year. You know, in Florida you have a buck bag limit now.
Yeah.
But one of those deer was actually on one of the private lands programs, so it didn't count against his buck quota. So he still can hunt and kill 1 more buck this year. But he's had an exceptional year. I don't think he's ever killed 3 bucks his whole life, and so this is the first year, so you can tell he's pretty happy.
He's happy. 84 years old. 84 going strong in hunting.
I hope I can live to 84. Never mind, keep on hunting when I'm 84.
Isn't that awesome? You trained him well.
Yeah, and this is a little fella, Anthony Clayton, 11 years old, and this is the 6th buck that he's killed in the last 4 years. So he's just eat up with it. And this is over at our lease over in Gulf County. So it's great to recruit these youngsters in, and so they carry on our hunting heritage.
Yes, that is so cool. Okay, we'll come back to rut map in a minute.
Okay.
Let's look at this.
Yeah, but you know, the thing is, one of the things a lot of our hunters will realize is a lot of these bucks that we're used to seeing mostly only at nighttime is once the rut hits, they start becoming much more you know, diurnal or daytime use. And so I've seen it even on my cameras out of my lease. As the last 2 weeks, I've started seeing a lot of these bucks that I only get at night. You start seeing them, they come in, they wait till right after dark, and they'll be coming into your feeders and food plots. And now they're coming in just at last light, and you'll start so it's amazing how things change. Once their mind mentality changes what's important to them.
I've got several questions. We're going to take a break. All kind of questions on the rut, and one of them is going to be, you know, how long will that scrape? How fresh is it, and how long will it stay in one area? So let's take a break. We'll come back and check with Steve on that one. All right, welcome back. Got a couple of questions some of y'all sent in, and I have one myself. And one of the first ones, which was, you know, we're talking about the scrape, Steve, and a lot of times, you know, I put my camera, and we all do this. How long can that scrape be there, and is it just a single scrape? So tell us about the scrape, the actual scrape itself, where they're pawing it out. And
yeah, well, scrapes are a way that bucks communicate, but communicate with other bucks primarily, but also with other does. You know, and lots of hunters will see is early in the season, you'll see the scrapes really pick up and heat up, and that's usually prior to the breeding season, when active breeding is going on. And then when it's at the peak of the rut, when the bucks are actually chasing does, you don't see the scrape activity as active then. And then after, a little bit after the rut, you'll see it start picking up again. But it's amazing, all the camera surveys that I do, I've found on some places where 25 different bucks that I can uniquely identify visiting the same scrape.
No way, 25
different bucks of all different age classes. And I've actually seen, you know, the bucks will urinate in those scrapes. And what it is the tarsal gland. Most hunters know what a tarsal gland is, but there's like modified hairs that have scales on them. And there's actually proteins on those scales. And so when the buck pees down its legs and it goes, the urine actually goes over those proteins and deposits the scent. So it's actually not the urine, but it's actually what's
from the tarsal.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and so, you know, lots of times, like I'll put cameras on scrapes, and you'll see that most of the activity is at night. But once the rut hits, you'll start seeing more and more activity during the daylight hours at those scrapes. You know.
And how often will the does be in that area?
I've actually seen lots of times does will actually come up and mark in the scrape just like a buck does, and urinate in the scrape just like the buck does. Okay. So it's amazing how many does will actually visit scrapes as well, not just bucks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very good. Another question was, we know deer are colorblind and all, but well, I had a question was, if you're in a big field and you're at one end of the field and a deer comes out way on the other end of the field, and the big thing is movement, but how far can they see?
Yeah, deer can see a couple hundred yards.
Okay.
And they're keying mostly off of your movement, not so much the color. Deer are colorblind. They are very well adapted to seeing the blue wavelengths of light, but like if you had a hunter orange vest on, they would see that as black. And if you see a deer, you know, they know something's up. Either they smell you, or and they're pounding their foot. They're looking at you, but they don't know what you are. They're trying to get you to move, and then they can realize, okay, I see what I'm dealing with. And so I've seen deer like 200-300 yards away. You can get away with quite a bit of movement. But in close proximity, you can get away with very little. That's why it's always best to hunt from an elevated stand. So, you know, movement is key, and deer, you know, not very good in regards to color. So,
okay, what about the spray scent? The people about the spray zone and all the cover scent and everything. What's your take on all this scent and smell? I know they smell very good.
Yeah, you know, to me, no scent is best, and so I don't use any cover scents.
Okay.
I just use the wind. Have the wind in your favor. If the wind's not in your favor, don't hunt that stand. But I've seen even with cover scents that deer, their nose is unbelievable. So they'll pick up even on cover scents, and so anything that's going to make them curious or attract their attention, I stay away from. So I don't use any scents. I just, you know, make sure wash all my clothes, make sure I stay as scent free as possible, but I don't use cover scents. Now I will use tarsal glands on decoys and different things like that. But I'm not an advocate of cover scents.
And do you use decoys? You say do you use many decoys?
Yeah, it's not in Florida, but in the Midwest where there's you know, better age structures, you know, I'll use decoys up there.
Interesting. That's interesting. All right, we got this map here. Let's talk about, while we're on it, talk about the rut and everything, the different colors. Tell us about this.
Yes, this is actually a map of the rut or breeding chronology in Florida, and a lot of work went into this by the FWC, Elena Garrison and Corey Morey, the deer biologist with the state, and you could see how unbelievably various it is. You know, most of the country, we have a November rut. If you see down in South Florida, it's basically middle of the summer is when the deer are rutting down there.
Wow.
And if you go all the way to Northwest Florida with those dark blues, I mean, it's January, February where the rut is. And there's no other state in the country that has a wide-ranging rut like Florida has, not to the degree
It's fascinating. Well, it's intriguing, not fascinating, it's intriguing. But listen, how do you figure the Central Florida, how scientifically, you know, look at that map, and you know, they similar, you know, you look at those colors are similar to the Northwest Florida.
Yeah.
How can you explain that as a biologist?
Well, what a lot of, no one knows for sure, but there's been studies done where they've looked at the reintroduction history of where, you know, a lot of places across the whole nation were devoid of deer, you know, and so there was a restocking program. And so what they found is there is some, you know, genetic links to where those deer came from and the stocking and the breeding chronology of what deer have in that area. So they think that portion there just east of Tampa was probably due to the influence of where those deer came from.
The DNA in those that's interesting. That's really interesting. Well, that's cool.
Well, you know what's amazing to me, Winston, is you would think that would slowly diminish because of the deer with a different breeding range all around them. So you think that genetic link would get flooded out. So
you would.
So some of the things we still cannot explain. I've been a deer biologist my whole life, and I still have all these questions.
All right, there's a little dark spot right here, sort of north of I think Gulf County, right there, right in the middle of the screen, right here.
And that's right where my lease is.
I was going to say that's in the Gulf County area, and that's odd. Now, how do you explain that compared and surrounded by?
And that could be, and you know the thing is too is when these rut maps were made, it's based on doing collections and actually measuring the fetuses in those does, and so you have a limited number of areas that you can actually collect. And so, you know, that map may be somewhat different than this is just on the data that was available. So imagine it's close, but it's not perfect.
Well, that's something. Okay, let's take a look at this picture here. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people don't understand is how you manage deer in most of the countries. It's a little bit different here in Florida, as our does tend to have low productivity. The survival rate and the number of fawns that does have in Florida is much lower than other parts of the country, and that's because the habitat here is poorer quality. You know, And so in order to maximize your recruitment, you have to have more deer on the landscape than you would, say, in a higher quality habitat. In most states, you can have a lot lower number of does, but they're all producing twins and some triplets, and so you could get away with having a lower population, but you have the same number of deer being recruited in. In Florida, it doesn't work that way. You have to have more does in most areas on the landscape, and what I found doing the camera surveys that we're lucky. I mean, you know, if you have a half of like 0.5 fawns per doe, you never even see in Florida. The highest recruitment rate I've seen in Florida is 0.42. So like you know, 0.4 fawns per doe are actually surviving.
Wow.
And so in most places it's like 0.2.
Good.
And so it takes 5 does to produce 1 fawn.
Wow.
And one is because they're producing few, and there's a high mortality rate. And coyotes are one of the reasons. There's a lot of studies that have been done that coyotes are really greatly impacting the fawn survival in many places in the southeast.
We're going to take a break, come back and talk about that. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Today with Steve Shea. We call him the Panhandle Outdoors deer expert because of his background and his work day in and day out and experience he has. So glad to have Steve. Our fishing game time is brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers out of Port St. Joe. Looking at 10:03 to 12:03 this morning and tonight, 10:30 to 12:30. Got a couple more pictures. Let's go ahead and show these. What do you think on these right here?
Oh yeah, this is some of the deer surveys I do, and like we had talked about in Florida, you need to have a lot more does. You know, so I tend to, all my clients is recommend a lot lower antlerless harvest. You know, kill a lot fewer does because the only way to keep that population growing is to have more does on the landscape. So your harvest management has to be a little bit different.
And this is public enemy number one.
Yeah, and, you know, they have their place, but you know, there used to not be the coyotes here. There was a natural emigration, you know, to the west into Florida. But a lot of programs that I work with, landowners, is they have intensive trapping programs, which is allowed now by the FWC, and they trap the few months prior to fawn drop. And if they reduce the coyote population then, and they have extremely unbelievable how they've increased their fawn survival.
That's interesting. Before the fawn, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, this is awesome. Yesterday afternoon, I took the priest from my church, Father Kevin McEwen. He wanted to start hunting, and we went a couple times without luck. And he had this nice. It's actually a management buck. A nice 3-year-old came in, and the guy was cool, calm, and collected. I tell you what. So I've recruited a new hunter in. So he's ready to go now. He's ready to go kill a hog now. But so there's a pastor of my church who was a successful hunter yesterday afternoon.
You gotta be careful. He'll be praying more. He'll get a bigger deer. So you got. Oh, this is a fine. But the story behind this is unreal.
Oh yeah, this deer was killed yesterday afternoon. I mean, it just shows you the peak of the rock coming. Calhoun County. It grossed over 150. Hasn't been officially scored yet, but had 23-inch main beams. Look at those eye guards. Those eye guards are over 6 inches long.
I had another picture of it too.
I think it has 14 scoreable points that are at least an inch long.
That's a Calhoun County buck.
Yeah. Now my buddy killed this deer, and now he is such a great conscientious person. He says, you know, I have not got permission of the landowner to be able to share, you know, where I killed it or even. So I had to keep it all stealthy and at this point and couldn't tell. But he's a great guy, and he knew this deer was there and was hunting him, and he closed the deal yesterday afternoon.
Awesome, man. That is great. That's just some great pictures and all. I think that's does that wrap them up? I think it does. We got okay. So all right, let's quickly. Did we leave out anything else on the deer? We covered all the deer.
Covered the rut. Sure
we got 3 or 4 minutes left now. We got you being well-rounded and your background and all. What do you got coming up as far as what you have to do pretty soon?
Well, I got some new deer properties coming on. You know, Alabama has a similar rut to us, really late rut. So, you know, I'm actually in the process of getting a baseline deer survey done on a property right now in Baldwin County, Alabama. It's a large property, so I'm working on that right now. I start my alligator work at the end of this month, start working down south doing adult surveys. Doing a bunch of fisheries stuff now too, working with private land. When you have a client and they want the wildlife, maximize the wildlife and fisheries on their property, so you have to be well-rounded. And so, you know, I work with other partners, different environmental consulting firms that partner with me too. So we do all kinds of stuff. So.
On your gator surveys and all, how do you do those at night or day?
Yeah, we do nighttime surveys. You know, in the summertime I do nest surveys, but you know, we just used to get on a boat, airboat, or it depends on the habitat. If it's a big marsh, you get on an airboat and you just shine the marsh, and you have to estimate the size of the alligators and do a tally sheet. And the FWC issues tags to the private landowner based on that population inventory.
Okay.
You know.
All right, and are there still some big bull gators out there?
Oh yeah, I mean it's funny in North Florida, you know, we think that we have a lot of alligators, but really, I mean, until you go down to South Florida, it's just unbelievable the number of alligators, and even you know, I do a lot of alligator nest surveys as well. Is the nesting up here is very minimal compared to what you see in those highly productive habitats down in South Florida. And that's the reason why you have so many alligators down there.
Wow.
It's also a reason why you have more conflict with people.
More people, more gators. Yeah.
Wherever there's water, you're going to have alligators.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, getting back to deer. When would be the fawn drop? You're talking about when it's happening. Roughly what time of the year? I know. And do they drop them all year?
No.
They do not. Okay.
You know, so we have a late rut here. So our rut here is end of January and into early February. So most of our fawns actually hit the ground, I would say, from mid August to the first week. That's 3 weeks. The last 2 weeks of August, first week of September. That's when most of our fawns here locally are hitting the ground. As you get over to Tallahassee, it's like a month earlier, and I've seen them drop, you know, into October, you know, so that mean breeding date is you know, end of January, but they're still breeding later into February, and I've actually seen them fawns that would have been conceived in March. Okay. So you know, it's really late over in this part of the state.
That's interesting, and a lot of us go back and forth on about seeing fawns at different times, and that's the reason for it.
That's the reason. That's the reason.
All right, we're about to wrap things up. Did we leave out anything? You covered a lot today.
No. We'll have to get together again and start talking about fishing. I'm already starting to get the itch a little bit. Well, we can talk about turkeys too. The turkey season
turkey coming up
this spring. Yeah.
Time to go fishing. As always, Steve, we appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure.
And if you have any questions, you know, send me a message or something. I'll get a hold of Steve and we can answer it, and he knows a lot about it. Always great to have you on. And don't forget about sharing your harvest. All of our hunters are doing this, okay? Thank y'all so much for watching our show. We appreciate the viewership. We always ask you to do something good today for your fellow man and enjoy the great outdoors, and God bless.
God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.